Hello everyone and welcome to Avantika Designeering Series or ADS as we like to call it. Every week on Wednesday, we feature design and technology leaders who share their professional journey, their thoughts on their domain of work, and designeering where the world of design and engineering meet. Make sure you follow us on social media, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. And with that, let's continue with your show.
So, have you ever wondered what happens when you stop taking feedback? You will be stuck in a flux of unsuccessful tasks. This is what happens to different products and services that do not incorporate analytics and research. It eventually results in bad user experience. Design is something that revolves around people, which is driven by convenience to help people interact better not only with the system, but also with various elements such as the environment and people around them. Thus, it is safe to say that design is capable of introducing a wave of positivity among the people. Today, we have with us a firm believer of design thinking, someone who believes designing for better. Tanu Sinha, who leads as Design Director at PepsiCo India. Her professional journey has indeed been an inspiring one. With a passion for design, she has helped various brands and companies to nurture their products and services for a better experience. Today, on our journey of discovering designeering, let's get into conversation with her on design thinking simplified. Hello, Tanu. Welcome to Avantika Designeering series. It's a pleasure to host you and today know your views on a lot of interesting things from the world of design.
Hi, Rohit. Very happy to be here. Very happy to be part of this series and look forward to a great conversation today.
Great. So, Tanu, before we started recording the show, it's heartening. I'm very glad to know that everything is great at your end during this pandemic situation. And one of the things that I think for icebreaker to start our conversation is the current situation, as we all know, has thrown us around the world to work from home, and it's more challenging than they predicted. So, what I'm interested in knowing is what, according to you, are some rules for managing design productivity while working from home?
Yeah, sure. I'll talk about that. So, Rohit, for me and my team, and I think for most of the people in my organization, because it's a global organization, so we are always working with the teams which are not based out of in the same in the same geography or same location. So we are always interacting with people, having feedback sessions, having learning sessions with people who are not physically present with us. So in a way, I think we have not really worked from home, but we have always interacted with each other in a virtual space. So when this whole work from home things sort of started, it was not too much of a change for us. So I think because we already had a previous learning of operating in a virtual environment, I think that really helped us. So that would be that is one thing I think that really was helpful in coping with this whole new normal that we talk about. However, what we really miss, I personally miss, and every time I talk to my colleagues, people who work with me, they always say that we miss those corridor conversations. We miss going to the studio and creating a prototype of a great idea that just hit us. So all those things I think we really miss, and there is no real replacement of those things. I think especially for creative people, we thrive on interact on beautiful interactions. We really get a lot of energy from interacting with people, picking people's minds, understanding what's their point of view. So I think that is something in a real environment is something that we miss. However, what I try and follow, and I also tell my team to do that, and I think it helps everybody, is that in spite the fact that the boundaries are blurring, We are working from home, so we are working. We don't have a very strict work hours. You have a luxury of starting whenever you want and ending at whatever time you want. I think although while we have that luxury, it's important to have a schedule. So my rule number one would be to still have a schedule, to have a routine, and to adhere to that routine. So still get up at a certain time in a day. Almost get ready like you're going to work. Plan your day, put everything in your calendar. I think maybe even your personal things should be planned, because a lot of times what happens is that we keep prioritizing our work requirements, but a lot of things at our personal ends keep lagging behind. So I think following that schedule really helps. The other thing that really helps is staying connected. So while we cannot meet people, but now technology empowers us to do that. So stay connected using your video calls, or even normal phone conversations, because I think we have started underutilizing phone, and everybody just jumps on to a video call and starts doing that. I think what a phone call allows you is, it gives you liberty to sort of move around, have a bit of physical activity in the day, so that you're not stuck to a chair throughout the day. So I think that would be another thing. Third thing that I feel is very helpful is that you should set apart some time for reflection. You must during the day reflect on what you are doing, reflect about your work, reflect about how you plan your work, reflect about different requirements coming from different people. It could be business requirement, it could be requirement of how you address something within your own team. So I think that taking out time for reflection, I believe, is extremely important. Otherwise, we are just rushing through life. And I think the last, but not the least, rule is that definitely spend quality time with your family. And I think people who are because not everybody has that luxury of living with their family. I know when the lockdown happened, there's so many people who could not really go back to their homes or hometowns or families, and they were stuck in situations where they were living all by themselves. And I think these are the times when we really understand the importance of having a family, importance of having people in the household, where we are sort of 24 by 7. We're not stepping out, not doing anything else. So while we are there with our family, it's important to spend that qualitative time, because I think that really helps you re-energize, refresh, sort of free up your mind, and that really helps in getting fresher ideas and getting fresher point of views. So those would be my rules to sort of deal in times like these.
Wow. What was exciting about hearing your answer to this is you covered all sorts of aspects, right? From work, managing personal time, all sorts of things. So it's really interesting to know how you're managing all of these things at the same time. In fact, one of the points that I would like to catch up from your answer is that of usage of technology. And obviously, in the current time, it's increased, whether it's online classes for our young ones, meetings on the apps. And PepsiCo has also done a couple of interesting things. So during the pandemic situation, we read in the media that Pepsi collaborated with Dunzo to provide user access to the products that they love. How do you think the change in consumer behavior is impacting your industry?
So, obviously, as we have entered into this new normal, I think one thing that has changed drastically is the consumer behavior. How we are interacting with our environment, how we are interacting with life around us. And an important thing that has emerged is the hyper local delivery, the importance of hyper local delivery, because the movement is restricted, and India has had one of the most severe, I would say, lockdown or restrictions in the world. So I think this whole aspect of having hyper localized delivery is something that was sort of introduced in our industry at this time. And PepsiCo collaborated with Dunzo, even Swiggy for that matter, to make sure that the essential goods, the consumer goods, are available to people as and when they need it, and there is an unrestricted supply of all these essential goods. In fact, also on our beverage side of the business, we tied up with Swiggy to make sure that all the consumer goods are available on demand, and in a lot of cases, even delivery is happening within 2 hours. The other interesting emerging channel is eB2B model. So under which PepsiCo India has partnered with Udan and Big Basket to help small and medium businesses. And this partnership will ensure that there is an access to our product portfolio to small retailers, and then in turn they can cater to demand in the market.
Super. So we will come back to PepsiCo and interesting things that you do at your workplace. But I think before that, what I'm interested in talking about is your personal journey. So from computer science, physics to visual communication, working with startups or design studios to today with one of the top brands in the world. Can you tell us and run us through your professional journey?
Yeah, it's actually my most favorite question.
I'm sure there is so many interesting things that you've done that this is going to be an exciting thing, and I'm waiting to ask you many more questions. From this answer as well.
Yeah, sure. Look forward to. I'm really excited about answering this, Rohit. So, to be completely honest, I wouldn't take any credit by saying that, I chose design for myself. Design really and truly chose me. And I don't know if you're aware, but I'm a small town girl. I hail from a small town. I would not even call a city in UP. And I grew up there. I was born there. I grew up there. I spent almost around 19, 20 years of my life there. And I was born to a middle class household, but I was born to very creative parents. So both my parents are painters, not professional painters, but my mother is a professional fine arts professor, now retired professor. My father was a commercial artist in days when graphic design not really existed in India as a discipline or a function. So there were artists, and then there were commercial artists. And my father is not a commercial, is not a trained commercial artist, but that is something that he started doing out of his own willingness, and because he had a talent for it, he had a knack for it. And he actually was a government servant at that time, where when he decided to quit his job and he decided to pursue a career in creativity completely based on his passion and his belief. So I grew up in a household like that, where which thrived on passion, which thrived on self belief, which thrived on sort of breaking the norms to do something that you are very passionate about. So while I did grew up studying the science and the computer science and all those, I had that kind of an academic training. But I think a little later, when in my early adulthood, is when my father sort of exposed me to design, and he said that why not design? I mean, obviously, I was being trained to become an engineer, but design is something that really popped up out of nowhere. To be very honest. And then the next thing I knew, that an ID happened, and obviously very prestigious at that point and even now. And when I look back, I think design is one of the best things that ever happened to me. Not just because I'm a designer as a professional today, but also because I think what NID gave me, or design thinking gave me, is a school of thought. More than a professional skill, it really gave me a different way to look at life, to really open my mind and observe life around me, and really approach everything in a very unique way. So that is how my creative journey really started. And there was no looking back. After I passed out from NID many years ago, I started working. I actually started my internship with a small multidisciplinary design studio in Pune called Own Your Design. And I owe a lot to that place, because I think it was my design school outside NID, in the way that a lot of professional ethics, the way I approach my work, the way I approach my professional interactions, I think I still drive a lot from there. So I owe a lot to that organization, to those people. So that's how I started working there. After that, I moved on to different organizations. I briefly worked with not briefly, actually. I worked with for a lot of time, for a couple of years, with Elephant Design. largely in the space of branding, packaging design, corporate branding. I worked for a lot of FMCG brands. Then later on, I moved on to trying something new, and I worked with this television branding company called Salt Studios. Salt Studios was also my client at some certain point in time, and I had designed their identity and I had designed their entire communication and look and feel. And later on, they hired me to be the design lead for Salt Studios. I think that was a very interesting experience for me because my education and most of my work experience in my early career was mostly in traditional design and print, while I think what I learned at Salt Studios was a completely different medium. So I think Salt was a very interesting experience for me. And then later, my past stint before PepsiCo was with Nestle Design Lab, which is actually a collaboration between Fitch and Nestle. It's a unique collaboration, one of its kind in world actually. So Nestle Design Lab is actually based out of Nestle headquarters in India, and I was working there as a creative partner for more than 50 brands of Nestle India before I joined PepsiCo last year. In fact, me and my team recently finished 1 year at PepsiCo India. And last year, when I joined PepsiCo, I was hired to start design capability within PepsiCo India. While PepsiCo Design is a global function which has been there for many years, but last year is when we started it in India. So I think that is how I would sum up my journey. Last 1 year at PepsiCo has been great because I think what I started doing here is something which has been very challenging at the same time extremely rewarding. So yeah, I think that would be summary of my professional journey.
Super. So, in fact, in my limited career, also, I've had a chance to work with corporate as well as two of my own startups. And one of the observations that I have is startup has a very different work environment and culture. They are frugal, limited resources. Whereas when you talk about these large companies like Pepsi, Nestle, Fitch, they're large corporate companies with a very different culture and atmosphere. The question that I have is, while you shifted your gears with these companies, what were the things that you had to learn, unlearn, and relearn during these changes in your career?
So, Rohit, most of my career I have actually spent in working with smaller organizations. It has actually only been lately, in the couple of years, I have worked with the bigger companies. I think what I really took from my past to my present is the mindset that thrives on agility, passion, drive, and ownership. Because especially in PepsiCo, if I have to specify, when I was hired, I had to start a capability. Okay, so it needed a startup mindset because when you are starting something new, while PepsiCo as an organization is of a humongous scale, but I think design in PepsiCo India I had to start, and that needed the mindset of a startup. It needed all the mindset of being frugal about the resources, being extremely passionate about what you do, believing in what you are starting, and then driving it with a lot of agility and passion and hard work. So I think those are the qualities which I sort of brought along with myself to PepsiCo. Even at Nestle, if you see, where the kind of setup I worked in was a very unique setup. So I think every time I made a change in my career, I have taken up a new sort of a challenge. So I think that ability to take up new challenges and put in your 100% to make it work is something that I have sort of carried throughout my career. And I think that is something that really keeps me also alive and motivated to keep going.
Interesting. In fact, the way you describe the journey, it almost seems that you got an opportunity to be an intrapreneur at Pepsi, and kickstart, a completely new thing there.
Yeah, yeah. That's true. That's true. And hence, I think working in small setups helped me to sort of prepare me for this.
So while we've been discussing, one thing that keeps coming to my mind is design is taking a center stage everywhere. I mean, the total number of design thinking workshop, conversations, and whatnot. And now we've started also blending these approaches. So blending design with business, with technology. In fact, I'll come to one more question on this in due course of time. So the application of design strategy creates a competitive advantage for companies in the market. The question that I have is, how do you think design strategy is helping companies at different level to survive the transformational era?
So, Rohit, what's happening is that, we are living in times where people are exchanging information, views, data 24 by 7 using social media and other channels. Consumer segmentations have blurred, and people are adapting to newer ways faster than ever. We are communicating more than ever, I think, in the history of mankind. World is becoming a smaller place as communication has become so much easier and faster. And I think the role that design has to play here is be a bridge between the brands and the people by providing relevant creative solutions. So I think what design does is it helps in understanding people needs in fast changing socio-cultural context, and then it helps prototype ideas and possibilities for validations and eventually taking them to market. So I think that is the role of design strategies in the changing world like ours today.
Interesting. And in fact, one of the philosophies that you've also mentioned and that you believe as a design leader is that of consumer empowerment through design. So the concept of consumers will keep winning whether the product wins or loses. How do you think you can make this happen as a designer?
How we do it as designers is through empathy, by putting people at the center of everything that we do. As designers, we have this unique ability to empathize, strategize, and prototype based on the needs of the people. As designers, we love culture. We love life around us. And when I say culture, it's art, music, it's performance arts, it's everything. And I think that love for culture helps us in creating unique experiences. Now, these experiences can be in form of a brand or a product or a service. And if you, I don't know if you're aware, but one of the examples I think from PepsiCo environment is a Pepsi-inspired beverage station. It's a unique example of, it's a classic example of, how design thinking can impact all phases of product customer experience.
So, Tanu, while you were mentioning about brands and how all of them coexist, so as competition in the marketplace offers myriad choices, most companies look towards making emotional connect with the customer. In fact, how a brand is perceived with a direct bearing on its failure or success, whether it's product or service. In fact, a large company or even a startup, good design is good business. Do you agree with this? And can you share an example that you have come across which fits this brief?
Yeah, I completely agree with it, Rohit. In fact, I think a lot of international technology and sports brands leverage this beautifully. I think they leverage design beautifully. And the example, if I have to quote, I would quote a very frugal level innovation example. And I'm going to talk about this juicer that I think most of the Indian households have. It's not like a juicer which is of a big brand, but I think that juicer is perfectly designed to suit an Indian household. It's very easy to clean. It's a handheld operated juicer. It's very easy to clean. It can be used very effectively, and it's very durable, which is, I think, number one importance for most of the Indian consumers. And it occupies more aerial space than ground, which makes it suitable for Indian buyers and households. So I think this is an excellent example of, it's a very local level innovation, but it's hugely successful.
So, Tanu, here is a interesting quote that I came across. You spend millions of dollars to create content, and then you do unique packaging, and it breaks the internet. I see Pepsi has done this recently, especially with Lay's. So first, by putting these smiling faces on the packaging, which everyone used in terms of clicking photographs with and doing exciting things, and sharing it on Instagram. And now with the unique one, which is using the logos of the companies to celebrate their contribution during pandemic time. My question is, how's this evolving, and can other companies also adapt similar styles?
Yes, Rohit, I'm very happy that it has caught your attention, and it has been indeed very successful. So if you look at it, Rohit, at the heart of both these campaigns, Smile and the Heart Work campaign, were two core scalable ideas. While the Smile campaign emerges from the central thought that different flavors of Lays can lead to different smiles and different connections, and it worked brilliantly, and soon the whole nation was smiling. I got so many posts from my friends in my own circle and family, who were posing with the lace pack. So yes, it was hugely successful. Similarly, on Heart Work campaign, what we did was that we wanted to acknowledge the efforts, the relentless efforts of numerous unsung heroes who continue to work even in these challenging times. So from popular names like Neha Kakkar to Jessie Gill to over 30 leading brands, they came together to support farmers and truck drivers, retailers, and all these heroes. In fact, another purpose-driven campaign that I want to talk about is where Pepsi announced Pepsi Save Our Restaurants. It's a fundraising initiative in association with the National Restaurant Association of India and Swiggy. With cause at the heart of it, the initiative aims at providing around 2.5 million meals to the workers of the restaurant community who are in distress. And it would be worth mentioning that it's an effort. It's a huge effort by all the cross-functional team. And it would not have been possible without the leadership and guidance of our category leaders, both on the foods and the beverage side, Dilen Gandhi and Vishal Kaul. And I think that's where. And it's very interesting that design will never exist in isolation. Design will always exist in a context. Designers will always be working with teams with different capabilities, different skill set, different mindset, and I think that is where the magic happens. And I think that is the biggest incentive of being a designer. I feel that you get to work with such multifaceted talent and then really create these magical this magical pieces of communication that people love.
Exciting. I remember sharing one such pic on my Instagram with the smiley lace packet a couple of weeks ago as well. Very very creative and exciting campaign. So while you and your team, Tanu, work on these interesting campaigns and design concepts, what I'm excited to ask you is, what is your go-to destination for identifying trends apart from doing user research?
I'm going to give a very simple answer for this, Rohit, because there are tons of material and resources over the internet where you can read about trends for hours and hours. But I think what I want to tell you is the observation and the power of observation of life around you. I think is the biggest sort of a trend report that you can draw for your own self. I think as creative people, we love to do that. I do that in my own personal sphere of work. My team does it, because ultimately we are all designing for people, and observing people, understanding what they do, how they do, what are their needs, how they engage and interact with systems around them, I think is the best place to pick some trends. So that would be my recommendation.
That's really interesting, and I think it's an ability which takes a lot of time to build, because all of us observe, but what is it that you can actually make sense out of things that you've observed, and you can use that is another skill set, is what I believe in. So Tanu, coming to a question that we asked you sometime back, also in fact you also shared in your answer, is the use of technology. In fact, we see Pepsi coming up with so many digital campaigns, microsites, and technology. According to me, is something which is indispensable in today's time. And if we talk about the world of design as well, I think technology has really played an important role. Now, while we all understand that the relationship between design and engineering is truly substantial, at Avantika University, we coined a term around this called as designeering, which is using the intelligent ecosystems from both the worlds. My question is that while we educate the next breed of designers, do you think is this philosophy relevant, and is there a scope of it to grow in future?
Rohit, I think it's extremely relevant. And I'll tell you why. Because, while I see them as different disciplines or functions, and they also utilize different parts of the brain, but I always see them coming together at various occasions to serve a particular need or an objective. So I think they beautifully complement each other. Uh, and also, I have an interesting point to make here that I do see a lot of similarities in both of them, in design and engineering, because I feel that they both leverage intuition, logic, science, and creativity to solve problems. And I think that is where both the functions should coexist, and they should be leveraged.
So, thank you for validating our concept, Tanu, and I'm sure that it will help our students and learners actually grow, sensitize more in terms of respecting both these areas and learning the blended approach. So, moving from the world of design to a very interesting, fun segment that we call Gyan Vyan. So it's a quickie takeaway segment where we'll ask you certain questions quickly and take your top of the mind responses. You could call it our rapid fire round. So are you ready for this, Tanu?
Of course, let's go for it.
Okay, great. So Tanu, the first one: what commercial jingle gets stuck in your head all the time? Any commercial jingle that you remember very clearly?
Pepsi, ye dil mange more.
Super. And anything apart from Pepsi?
I think there was it's a very old jingle, the Nirma jingle.
Okay.
Yeah, very old. I think the Nirma jingle. It's something I think we all grew up listening to and was very popular, and it always stuck with
So I
me.
was trying to think your answer, and I thought that your second answer would be Nescafe, having worked with Nescafe for such a long time. Well, that's a very, very interesting jingle. Great. Moving to our second one. If you had to delete all the applications on your cell phone, but you were allowed to keep only three of them, which would those three be? Which one will you keep, and you are okay with the rest of them all getting deleted?
Wow. That's an interesting one. It's a tricky one. It's a tricky one. I would keep one of the app, and that could be any app. I mean, it could belong to anybody, but an app that gives me the freedom to make financial transactions online, because I think that is need of the hour. We are living in times where we need to constantly make online payments. So one app I would keep, one of those apps I would save. Second, I would save an app which helps me make buy groceries and stuff like that online. And third app I would keep is something that helps me work in my daily life. Like, for example, I mean, even WhatsApp, these days has become an active mode of engagement for work. So I think third app would be that app.
Great. In fact, it's also become one of the go-to apps for any kind of news items today. So you get all the news on your phone first, and then you validate it by watching it on television. Okay, great. My next one: what activity helps you relieve stress at work?
I think just catching up and talking to my colleagues. And I think just talking to people, interacting, is something that keeps me refreshed. Getting to know people's point of views is something that really keeps me refreshed. Yeah.
Super. And a film and a book that you swear by?
I think the book would be The Art of Looking Sideways by Alan Fletcher. I think it's an extraordinary guide to visual awareness. It draws upon working of mind and hands, eyes, imagination, and it does that with the help of most outstanding anecdotes, quotes, jokes, facts. And even if you and I don't know if you've had the chance to have a look at that book. It's a beautifully designed book. It's a big book, it's a fat one, but I think most creative people would have it at their home. It is almost like a Bible for designers. It's amazing. It has beautiful imagery, how they have utilized type, space, color. It's brilliant. So that's one book I swear
Yeah,
by.
so Tanu, the movie that you swear by?
Yeah, so I think my all-time favorite and the classic is The Forrest Gump by Tom Hanks. I think it's a wonderful movie. It's beautiful. It has a lot of life lessons. So I think that's a movie I go back to a lot of times, and I've seen it so many times already. Yeah.
Super. Our next one is from your work. What would you prefer to consume? Or let's twist it. What would you like to be in life? Pepsi, the fizz drink, or Tropicana, the fruit juice? Why and why?
Okay. Can I be both?
No, you got to choose one. So we want to know whether you want to be
Okay.
something which is natural, or whether you want to be something which is bubbly and fizzy. So which one and why? That's important.
I think I want to be Pepsi, always fizzing, always alive. So I want to be Pepsi.
Super. And my last one, what is it that something that you believed earlier in your career, but you disagree with that right now? You think very differently about it now.
I think ideas, you know. I think when I started as a designer, I think all designers, and I think it happens more so with younger designers or creative professionals. Sometimes we feel that we are not able to generate enough ideas, and we feel that ideas are very difficult to drive. But I think over the years, what you realize is that there is a trick to it. you know there is a method to it, and then there are so many aids that are available that can help you do it. So I think that is something that my thinking has changed in that regard.
Super. Tanu, this was an exciting session with you, knowing your thoughts on design, your journey. I'm sure it's going to help our listener. Thank you so much for joining us on the show, and it's been great hosting you.
Thank you so much, Rohit. It was amazing talking to you, and it was a great pleasure. Thank you so much.
Hey there, we hope you enjoyed our show. Do write to us on ads@avantika.edu.in. We look forward to your opinions, feedbacks, and suggestions of speakers you would like us to host on this show. Do tune in our channel next week on Wednesday for a new story on Hubhopper or wherever you get your podcast from. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter.